so I try to remember how they did in the movies, but they always seem to eject it in the film. So I started Googling how to snort heroin like an idiot and do a little research on the stuff and how much to take. I used a card to get into a fine powder and move a small bump to each side, which I inhaled through a dollar bill. I didn't feel anything yet, so I snorted a small line, which was essentially half the bag. There was very little inside. I waited, and in a few minutes I had the most pleasurable feeling of pure relaxation and bliss wash over me. I just sat there and everything felt amazing. I nodded off and it was great. I had the TV on but wasn't paying attention. I must have sat around for 4 hours doing nothing but feel total pleasure. It was like a full body orgasm times 10 that kept going on and on. When I would nod off, it felt like I was in a pure conscious lucid dream-like state. Sometimes it felt like I was leaving my body. At this point, I did the rest of it and stayed up all night and must have been high for 10 hours straight. I might have slept at one point. It's hard to tell the difference when you nod off and everything feels so good regardless. Just the feeling of being under a blanket was amazing. I was blown away by the power of this drug and how orgasmic it felt. I never understood why people did drugs before and got so hooked on them, but now I see why. I have the urge to do it again, but I will resist and not do it. At least not for a long time. I understand the addiction potential and how someone could easily tear apart their lives with this stuff. Heroin is pure powdered pleasure. I actually feel proud of myself for having the balls to do something this crazy, and I feel like it was a valuable life experience and my window into another world and a part of society. I will never forget the day I did heroin. Now, ask me anything.
Interesting.
So the reason that this was in Museum of Reddit and the summary that they give you is in September of '09, a Reddit user made a post about his first use of heroin. He snorted some and thought it was great, but was going to avoid doing it again to avoid becoming an addict. Within a fortnight, he was addicted and then injecting. Within a month, he'd been admitted to a psychiatric hospital due to overdosing on fentanyl, basically super heroin, antihistamines, epilepsy medication, and temazepam, and another opioid, and required several doses of Narcan to be revived. 2 days later, he was off to rehab. During the year he spent posting these updates, they mostly flew under the radar, and most everyone who actually saw them forgot about them. Until 7 years later, he dropped in with another update to say he's been clean for almost 6 years and that his life is going well.
That's wild.
This is insane.
Want more stories like this? Check out our podcast. Search Thread Talk on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.